Okay guys, so I'm gonna be showing you guys my recent eyebrow routine. I know there's a lot of steps, but you guys were asking if I could show you what I do with my brows, and I honestly love my brow routine right now. I think that it works really well for me. I can do it without feeling like I'm gonna mess up, and I always like how long it lasts. It lasts all day. So if you're interested to see how I do my brows, keep on watching. So my brows are naturally pretty sparse and uneven, so I use quite a few brow products on my brows. I wonder how many times I'm going to say brows in this tutorial. But I use 3 different colored products. I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dipbrow Pomade in the shade Ash Brown. I use the Bodyography Essential Brow Trio. It's a powder brow product. And then I also use the Benefit Gimme Brow, which is a tinted brow gel with fibers in it. And then to clean up the brows, I use little scissors that I also use for like cutting false lashes, and then I use a pot concealer. The one that I'm showing you today is a little bit of an overkill because it has 4 shades that I don't use in this tutorial, but I'm showing you what I honestly use like every day, and that is my Makeup Forever concealer palette number 5. It's called the 5 Camouflage Cream palette. And sometimes I also use the green around my brows depending how much redness I have in my skin, but mostly I'm just using that brighter skin tone shade. And any concealer would work, but I do recommend a stiffer pot concealer, such as the NARS Soft Matte Concealer or something like that, as opposed to like, the Tarte Shape Tape or the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer or the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer. All of those are liquid concealers, and I find that they're a little bit harder to work with around the brows and become a little bit more dramatic and less natural. I like my brows somewhere in between natural and dramatic, so that's why I'm using a pot concealer. The tools that I'm using, besides the scissors that I mentioned from Anastasia, are 3 different brushes. I use the Senna Cosmetics Pro Brow Brush number 40 for the Dipbrow. I like to use a separate brush, the Chikuhodo Eyebrow Brush, for the powders, just so that I don't have to go back and forth and get my brushes all gunky. And then finally, I use the MAC Cosmetics number 202 concealer brush. I've had this for literally like over 10 years, so I don't know if they still sell it or whatever. Any concealer brush would do. This one just happens to be my favorite. So one of the reasons I love the Anastasia Dipbrow Pomade is because it is very long wearing. It's actually a waterproof product, so I like putting this on first to create the shape of my brows. I'm using it with my Senna Cosmetics number 40 brush. I love this brush. It's really nice and precise. It stays nice and pointed and stiff. It also has a spoolie on the other end, which is really important. I always start right in the center part of my brow, and I seem to always kind of start with my right brow. It's just a little bit fuller, so it takes a little bit less effort. You'll see I take a lot less time on this brow than my other brow. I normally start right at the bottom part and trace out that lower line, and then I start to fill it in the direction that my brows naturally grow, which is down. Even with gel, my hairs kind of stay down, like pointing downwards, which I don't really love. I kind of fill them in that same direction because I used to fill them upwards, like a lot of people do on YouTube, but I feel like it goes against the grain and makes a patchy finish on my brows. So I fill them in downwards. Even if I brush them upwards at the beginning, they won't stay going up. So some people like the soap brow trend or like using eyebrow wax first, and that's nice, but I like the Dipbrow all on its own because it almost feels like a wax and it has a waterproof finish. So I use very, very, very little of the Dipbrow. I take it, I dip it in, and I wipe off the excess. My Dipbrow is actually pretty dry, and I like it like that. When you get it fresh, it's very wet, emollient, and opaque, and it can be really dramatic really fast. So I can add a drop of oil or a drop of the Inglot Duraline to make it nice and emollient like it came when it was first opened, but I like it drier, so I just brush it on, give my brows a powdery finish, and I really work it into the skin instead of laying a thick layer on top. And that's how I like it. I find it stays put for a long time. I rework the ends of my brows. I create a straighter, lifted brow shape because I like how that looks with my bone structure. You can always make your brows fit your own face by changing the shape of the arch and the overall shape. I personally like it when the middle part, the part where it's arched, is a little bit thicker, and then it gets a little bit darker near the ends, the tail. So I rework the tail end and I make it so that it kind of follows the line from my nose to the end of my eye to where the tail of my brow is, if that makes sense. And now I'm gonna go ahead and trim the brow hairs a little bit. After I've kind of gotten the shape and everything, I like to trim whatever hairs are outside of that shape that I like to create. And then I go in and I set all of this with a powder. I take the darkest shade. The darkest is also less warm toned, so it doesn't look so red. It looks a little bit cooler. It's a really nice dark brown, and I take this with my Chikuhodo brush. This brush is amazing. It's a really, really good powder brow brush. It's a little bit longer than most powder brow brushes, so it fills it in really fast but precisely. It picks up the powder really nicely, and I just kind of lay it on, and it gives a really nice natural finish and depth of color because that powder kind of makes it look more like hair. And then I use the lightest shade, that taupey blonde shade, to go over the rest of the brow, and I overlap those colors to make it nice and gradient and soft. And then I go in and take my Gimme Brow gel. This has fibers in it, so it thickens the brow hairs, makes them stand out a little bit more, makes my brows look fuller and more natural, and I use that. And sometimes I use other gels. I like the L'Oreal one a lot. And then I'm taking the concealer. I'm taking just a tiny bit and going around the edges, making everything look nice and precise. I don't want to do a thick layer of concealer. You definitely can do that if you want. A lot of people do, to create a really nice sort of like, you know, what you see on Instagram, the very, very sculpted brows. I like it to be a lot more natural, a lot more subtle. I just use it to clean up the shape. So that was my brow routine. I know there were a few steps in there, but I hope that you liked it. Do your brows however you want to do them. This is just what works for me and the products I like on my brows, and it does change. I don't always do this, but recently this is what I've been doing. Let me know down below if there's anything else you'd like to see. I'm trying to kind of address those special requests that you guys have for me. And subscribe if you're new to my channel. Welcome. Join my Cake Face family. Press that little bell that's next to the subscribe button to get all notifications from yours truly. And go ahead and comment so I can say hi. Yeah, thumbs up this video. I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.